What's up, traders, and welcome to another installment of the Market Barometrix Technical Analysis Series. I'm your host, Neil, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about price trends. Now, as traders and investors, we use price trends to help us determine the overall direction and momentum of a stock's price. Specifically in this video, we're going to be talking about the concepts of uptrends, downtrends, support, resistance, consolidations, and price channels. So let's jump in and learn a little bit more about the trend. First up is trend lines. Now, a trend line is just a straight line drawn on a price chart, connecting either peaks or troughs of the price data. Trend lines help us to visualize the trend. Specifically, they help us to identify areas of support and resistance, which we're going to get to here in a second. When we say that price is in an uptrend, that just means that we can draw a trend line through price that moves up and to the right. Generally, whenever price is moving up, the trend line that we draw will connect the troughs of the price line, meaning that we're going to connect the bottommost points of the price line. Said another way, an uptrend just means that there's a series of higher highs and higher lows along the price line. And you can see that on the chart over here from, March 2020 or so until late August 2020. The price chart that we're looking at here was clearly in an uptrend, and the blue line is connecting the troughs of the price line, clearly demonstrating that uptrend to us. Conversely, a downtrend is just the opposite. We can see here the second blue line towards the right, starting in mid-August 2020 or so, is connecting a series of lower highs and lower lows in the price, meaning that whenever you connect the peaks of the price line, the resulting trend line moves down and to the right. So an uptrend, you draw the trend line below price, and in a downtrend, you draw the trend line above price. So our uptrend line here is actually a fantastic example of support. Now, a line of support is basically just a trend line that price continues to fail to break below, right? So, in our example of the uptrend here, the uptrend line going from April through August there, you can see that it's connecting the troughs of price, and that price continues to bounce off that line. So it's not necessarily a specific level of price that's not getting broken through. It's a trend line that continues to not be broken through. So for example, in late March 2020, you can see price touching down to our trend line there. It happens again in mid-May, where price comes back down to that same trend line. So at this point, that trend line has offered support to price twice. And if right now it was mid-May 2020, we could connect those two troughs with a trend line, and we could extend that trend line, that line of support, where we might expect price to find support in the future, right? And that's exactly what ended up happening in mid-July and again a couple times in August. Now, the more times that price reaches that support and doesn't break through it, the stronger that support is going to become. But keep in mind that a line of support doesn't necessarily have to be an uptrend line. For example, in this chart here, we're looking at a line that is at one point resistance and then becomes support. So resistance is just the opposite of support. It's a trend line that price continues to bump against but fails to move above. So the more times that price bumps up against a trend line of resistance and fails to break through it, the stronger that line of resistance is going to become. So you often find lines of resistance in a downtrend, as we did in the previous chart here, starting in early August and moving to the far right of the chart. But here, we see that there's just kind of a flat price level that at first is resistance. You see in late June that price bumps up against that flat trend line there. And in fact, that trend line probably could have been extended all the way to the far left of this chart, because price is right around that same level in early June as well. So you can see at this point, that trend line, that line of resistance has already been hit twice. Then again in mid and late July, price approaches that line. It doesn't quite reach that line of resistance, but it gets fairly close. So again, that kind of plays to the fact that this is as much art as it is science. You're not going to be looking for lines of support support and resistance that are perfect to the penny, you know, certain price levels, price reaching those trend lines perfectly. These are approximations. We don't need to worry so much about things being perfect. What we want to do is identify those general levels that are obviously important. These are places where either buyers are stepping in or sellers are stepping in because it's a certain price point that's meaningful. All that said, and coming back to our chart here, we see that that's exactly what's happening. So at first, this 3650-ish level is a line of resistance, a price point at which a lot of people are stepping in and selling their holdings whenever price gets up to that level. Said another way, this is a place where sellers are stepping in, which continues to make it difficult for price to break above that line. But finally, in early August here, price does manage to break through the line of resistance, at which point that line, that 3650-ish level, becomes a line of support. And we can see where price touches back down to it late mid-August and again in September. That's because at this point, that 3650 level is still an important price level. Only now, instead of sellers stepping in, it's buyers who are stepping in at that 3650 level. And whenever price comes back down to that 3650 level, there's an influx of buyers coming in and supporting price at that level. So again, support is just a price level or trend line that price continues to fail to break below. On the other hand, resistance is either a trend line or price level at which price continues to fail to break above. Occasionally, price may be surrounded on either side by parallel lines of support and resistance. This is what's known as a channel. Now, in this example here, we have a downtrending channel, but channels can also trend up and they can also consolidate. Now, when we talk about a consolidation, this just means when price trends more or less sideways for a period of time, often oscillating between lines of support and resistance. So, a consolidating channel would just be a channel of parallel lines of support and resistance moving horizontally with price oscillating between them. A channel is a type of chart pattern, and we're going to be digging into a bunch of the different chart patterns in this series of videos. But for now, just know that the longer that price oscillates within a channel like this, the more dramatic it will be when price finally breaks out to one side or the other. And you can actually see here, if I move out of the way, the last price point of this channel is challenging the upper line of resistance. So it would be interesting to see how this ended up playing out. If you want to learn more about these chart patterns and how you might trade a downtrending channel like this, stick around for the rest of this technical analysis series where we're going to dive into some more of these chart patterns. So to recap, the trend just refers to the general direction and momentum of price. An uptrend is a series of higher highs and higher lows. A downtrend, a series of lower highs and lower lows. A line of resistance is either a price level or a trend line that price continues to fail to break above. A line of support is, again, a trend line or a price level which price continues to fail to break below. A consolidation is when price trends sideways. Oftentimes this happens in a channel. A channel being parallel lines of support and resistance that price tends to oscillate between. So if you guys like this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, leave your comments down below, and until next time, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next video.